Hello Devastators, Play-Doh here, and today we are going to be covering the updated build guide for the Trials version of our previous Devastator build guide. Remember, the main focus of our previous build guide was the speedrun version. That version is up to date and pretty much min-maxed. So, if you want to see an in-depth build guide focused on the speedrun expedition version of Devastator, check out the link in the description down below or the notification pop-up on the top right. So what's changed with the Trials version? A few key things, nothing major, but the results are quite satisfying, and now we truly one-rotation the Arbiter. We also learned how to make the one-rotation final Arbiter combo extremely consistent, so we'll be going over that full combo once more in detail with this small adjustment, but more on that later. Don't think you can only use this build in Trials, you can take it into the hardest difficulty content this game has to offer and complete it with ease. Yes, this includes expeditions. I don't want to keep you guys into suspense any longer. Let's head over to our skills with a quick mention of the legendary set we'll be using for this build. Good old Seismic Commander for its 50% damage increase towards enemies with bleed. We've made no changes here in that we're still running Earthquake, Tremor, and Gravity Leap. If you remember from our last guide, we'll be swapping out Tremor for Impale prior to the Arbiter fight in the trial for our one rotation combo. Of course, more on this later. Earthquake is our main damage source in this build, and thanks to the new PAX Tree nodes in Puncture and Multi-Strike, makes this skill the best it has ever been. Press 3 Earthquakes and profit. Pro tip, make sure you input a movement command while using Earthquake. This allows an animation cancel for smooth and fast Earthquakes. Earthquake also has a nice quirk in that it can kill enemies that are spawning, so if you're into that, it's an added bonus. It's also an interrupt skill, which means you can interrupt all enemy types and stagger them. Our second skill is Tremor, and Tremor is going to be really nice in this build for a little bit of AoE and helping keep uptime of Deathronome. Deathronome gives us a nice AP bonus when one skill is on cooldown, and during the activation of Tremor, since it's technically not on cooldown yet, we can do a nice Gravity Leap, Tremor, 3 Earthquake combo giving us full uptime of the AP bonus from that mod. Another nice combo is to Gravity Leap, do an Earthquake, then pop Tremor and the rest of your Earthquakes. Tremor also heals us by draining HP from enemies within its radius. The last skill we'll be using is Gravity Leap. This is our main movement skill and will also be a nice debuff when paired with the Despair mod. Despair is one of the best debuffs in the entire game, so if you're using Gravity Leap, it is mandatory to pair it with Despair. It's also an interrupt ability, just like Earthquake. Moving to our class tree, let's once again quickly go over the Devastator's class passive. For every close range kill, we get healed for 24% of our max health. Remember, close range is 10 meters, and we can easily find out this range by looking at our minimap lines. Each line indicates 10 meters in range. We also receive an additional 15% max health and a 30% armor bonus. Our melee also inflicts bleed. For the class tree itself, it's unchanged as we've made no adjustments here. Our focus is the Seismic Shifter bottom tree for anomaly power, cooldown for our skills, resistance piercing, the Paladin node which was buffed recently to now using any skill increases our anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds, Executioner node for the 20% damage increase to enemies below 30% to reach the Capstone node in Earth's Heritage for the base damage increase for our seismic skills by 50%. We then head top tree for additional armor pen and cooldown. Armor pen will have some value for us when we pair it with no resistance against the fortified armor mod, more on this later. For our PAX Tree, nothing is unchanged here as we're still going the Tectonic Shifter route starting with Impact Point. Our seismic and kinetic skill damage increased by an additional 50% of our anomaly power. That bonus damage is split among all damaged enemies. Then we move on to Puncture. Our seismic skills inflict bleed. Not only that, anomaly damage to enemies afflicted with bleed is increased by 10%. Anomaly damage is the best stat in the game and is beneficial for 99% of builds and Outriders. Puncture also makes our Earthquakes, Tremor, and Impale also inflict bleed, which is how we'll be taking advantage of the Seismic Commander set bonus. Our third PAX node is Earth and Shell, which makes Devastators unkillable. Damage dealt with skills is converted to a shield. Now the tooltip says this is a 1 second cooldown, but it's actually 0.5 seconds as noted in the latest patch notes. The 1 second tooltip display is just a rounding quirk in the game's engine. The fourth PAX node is Upheaval. Enemies damaged by seismic skill becomes upheaved for 2 seconds, storing 15% of damage received during that time and releasing it once the effect ends. This is most notable on the Arbiter and Trials and a bit of free damage elsewhere. And finally, we have Multi-Strike. 30% of damage dealt by seismic skills is stored and added to your next seismic skill. This effect resets every time you release your stored damage. TLDR, just press Earthquake 3 times really fast and watch things die in front of your eyes. Heading to our Ascension Points, our first 10 points will be into anomaly damage. From there, we can get points into anomaly power, resistance pierce, status power, resistance, damage to elites, increased mag size, and armor pierce. From there, the points really don't matter and you can put them where you want. Gear time. This is where we're making our first adjustment to our Trials build. Our main weapon is now the final penance so that we're able to use Mage's Rage, Deathronome, and Fortress. Previously, we were using our Mythos with Omen, either Mage's Rage or Deathronome, and Fortress. While yes, we lose 30% armor penetration the Mythos provides, we make up for it by replacing Omen so that we can use both Mage's Rage and Deathronome alongside Fortress, the superior mod combination for damage output. The Mythos will still be a great option for group play if you want to assist your teammates with Omen's debuff. I prefer to run Final Penance regardless for the convenience of not having to wait 4 seconds after weapon swapping to charge Omen. Mage's Rage provides us with a 10% anomaly power bonus for 15 seconds, which stacks up to 4 times. Hit crits, get more damage, nice. Deathronome gives us either a bonus firepower or anomaly power bonus depending on our skill cooldowns. If we have 2 equipped skills on cooldown, receive a firepower bonus. Otherwise, we receive an anomaly power bonus. This means to get our anomaly power bonus, we need to have 1 skill on cooldown. Note that if you have all skills on cooldown, it'll be a firepower bonus. We have a great uptime of the anomaly power bonus of Deathronome with this build as it is super easy to manage our cooldowns. We covered this briefly when we discussed Tremor, but let me give a slightly detailed example. When we engage our usual skill combo, we always start with Gravity Leap. This means we have 1 skill on cooldown now. We get our AP bonus, we can then pop Tremor for additional AoE damage. Since Tremor is active for a short duration, it will not count as on cooldown until the duration ends. This allows us to keep uptime from the AP bonus of Deathronome when we use all 3 of our Earthquakes. For the Apocalypse mod on our final penance, we have Fortress. Shots increase your current armor and resistance by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. At max stacks, the buff is doubled and additionally grants 25% damage increase for 10 seconds. Fortress also has a visual indication when it's active with our hands glowing green. The 0.2 second cooldown is the internal cooldown in between stacks. Fortress is great here as we can get the max stack super quickly for the 25% damage increase. Do note that in order to get the resistance bonus from Fortress, you need to have base resistance from either class nodes, mods, and in our case, 10% resistance from our Ascension Points. Just keep in mind that even if you have 0% resistance, we don't use Fortress for the armor or resistance bonus. We use it for the 25% damage. Moving to our secondary weapon, we're using a purple shotgun with Firestorm and Noxious spawns. You can run any weapon here as long as you have these 2 mods, as we will be feeding into Toxic and Burn multipliers. We'll cover more on what these Toxic and Burn multipliers are when we cover our gear. Multiplicative damage is extremely powerful in Outriders, so any chance we get to abuse them in builds is very welcomed. Our secondary weapon is primarily used for the 1 rotation Arbiter combo, which we will discuss in greater detail a bit later. You can still weapon swap during normal trials rooms to take advantage of the Toxic and Burn multipliers for hot elite clears, but definitely not necessary. Firestorm summons a homing Firestorm on successful shots that deal X damage and inflicts burn to enemies within its radius over 8 seconds. Radius of the Firestorm increases with each successful shot on the afflicted target. We don't care about the second part of this mod as we're only interested in the burn application. Noxious spawns 3 anomaly projectiles on successful shots that move towards the enemy with the highest health, dealing X damage and applying Toxic to the target enemies within a 1 meter range. Just like with Firestorm, we're only interested in the Toxic application, but like Firestorm, the additional damage is also welcomed. As for the last mod on our secondary weapon, it really doesn't matter. For our pistols, we're rocking the Torment and Agony with Radiation Splash, Click Combustion, and Moaning Winds. Pistols are the best weapon now for the use of reload mods. This will help us with some additional mob clear and nice burst damage on elites. Make sure you empty out your pistols before each expedition or trial so you can swap it to it instantly to get the reload mod activation. These reload mods are pretty self-explanatory, so no reason to go over each one in more detail. Heading to our gear, the stats we like for this build are Anomaly Power and either Cooldown Reduction, Skills Life Leech, or Status Power. Starting with our helmet, we've made an adjustment from our previous Cranium of a Lost Creature to Ronin's Amigasa. The Cranium is still a great choice, we only swapped to Ronin's due to our gloves dropping with Power Assimilation. The mods we are running are Arms and Anomaly, Anomaly Echo, and Euthanizer. Arms and Anomaly provides us with the best flat anomaly power boost for 6 seconds when we land a crit shot. The 6-second cooldown here does not matter since the buff itself lasts for 6 seconds. You don't need to focus on landing 1 crit every 6 seconds, this is mainly useful for elites. The second mod is Anomaly Echo for another huge flat anomaly power boost. The firepower boost we get here from this mod is negligible for this build. For Apocalypse mod we have Euthanizer, 16% more damage against enemies afflicted by Toxic. This primarily pairs with our Noxious Spawns mod on our secondary for our 1 rotation combo for the Arbiters. For our chest, we have the Seismic Commander's armor with no resistance against the Fortified, Earth's Legacy, and Captain Hunter. No resistance against the Fortified, aka Naraft, increases our resistance piercing by 65% of our armor piercing value. With our current setup, we have 30% armor piercing, which will provide us with a 20% increase in our resistance piercing. Resistance piercing is a nice stat to have on elites with high resistance like the Arbiter. It also synergizes really well with the Unstoppable Force mod, more on this one a bit later though. Our second mod in Earth's Legacy increases our Earthquake's range by 60%, mandatory mod if you're running Earthquake. For the Apocalypse mod, we're running Captain Hunter. 16% damage to elites is great. Heading to our big boy pants, we have the Seismic Commander's leg armor with Tainted Blood, Despair, and V Compound. Tainted Blood comes on the pants and provides us with a 16% damage increase to enemies afflicted with bleed. Despair is a no-brainer here as this is a mandatory mod to pair with Gravity Leap. Enemies within the damage radius of Gravity Leap will receive 30% more anomaly damage for 5 seconds. Quick reminder that anomaly damage is the best stat in the game and is beneficial for 99% of builds and Outriders. The only build anomaly damage has lower value in is Firepower Devastator. For the Apoc mod on our pants, we have V Compound. Just like Euthanizer and dubbed Captain Hunter Light, this mod provides us with a 10% damage increase to elites afflicted with Toxic or Blightfire thanks to our Noxious Spawns weapon mod. The AoE explosion damage here is pretty negligible. Heading to our gloves, we finally got one of the many mod variations you can use here in Extra Quake, Bullet Kindling, and Power Assimilation. The anomaly power stat that rolled on these gloves are nice, but definitely not required to get the same results of the one rotationing the Arbiter. This is the main reason we swapped to Ronin's Amigasa from Cranium, as Power Assimilation rolled on the Apocalypse slot, and it would not be beneficial to have two of the same mods. Extra Quake is another mandatory Earthquake mod, giving us an additional usage of the skill before it goes on cooldown. Bullet Kindling is used for the 12% more damage against enemies afflicted by burn. Thanks to the Firestorm mod on our secondary gun, we also get to abuse this burn multiplier for our one rotation Arbiter combo. For the Apocalypse mod, we have Power Assimilation. This provides us with an AP increase by X for each elite present on the battlefield. Quick reminder that Alpha Preferos also count as elites, making this mod have more value on monster maps. Lastly, we have the Seismic Commander's footgear with Second Quake, Bloody Boost, and Unstoppable Force. Second Quake, just like Extra Quake, is mandatory for giving us one more usage of the skill before it goes on cooldown. 3 Earthquakes in quick succession unlocks the full potential of multi-strike, so make sure you have both Extra Quake and Second Quake if you're running Earthquake. Bloody Boost also needs little explanation, as 8% damage boost to enemies afflicted with bleed is nice to have. For Apocalypse mod, we have Unstoppable Force, which provides us with an increase in our anomaly power by 50% of our resistance pierce. Thanks to Naraft, our class nodes, and our Ascension Points, we currently have 60% resistance pierce, giving us a bonus of 30% to our anomaly power. Nice. Now that we've covered our gear, let's go over how we successfully one rotation the Arbiter with our combo. As a reminder, we'll be swapping from Tremor to Impale before the Arbiter fight. This is required as Impale is the reason we're able to do this in one rotation. No Impale mods are required. So why the swap to Impale? Impale has a higher base damage than Tremor by quite the large amount, but more importantly, it gives Multi-Strike, our PAX node, a huge kickstart, allowing a disgusting amount of damage. Remember to swap back to Tremor from Impale after you kill the Arbiter. Let's take a quick look at the combo in action, then go over the full combo step by step. Pretty hot, right? Here's the combo, step by step. Step 1, we're going to let the Arbiter jump so we can cleanly get off our combo. Step 2, fire our secondary gun to proc our Toxic and Burn mods in Firestorm and Noxious Spawns. Make sure to not hit a crit shot here, as we'll be focusing on crits with our final penance for better uptime on Arms and Anomaly and Mage's Rage. Step 3, we're going to swap to our final penance and start shooting to proc Fortress. Remember that Fortress has a visual indicator of our hands glowing green when active. We're also going to crit here to activate Arms and Anomaly and Mage's Rage. Make sure you get 4 crits for max stacks on Mage's Rage. This should all happen at nearly the same time, as once you stack up Fortress and your crits, it's go time into Gravity Leap. Step 4, we're going to Gravity Leap onto the Arbiter to proc Despair. Step 5, this is the step where we learn how to make this combo extremely consistent. Previously, we had used Impale right after Gravity Leaping into 3 quick Earthquakes. What we found out is that if we walk backwards for about half a second, give or take, then use Impale into 3 quick Earthquakes, the combo becomes extremely consistent. Step 6, after the adjustment of walking backwards for about half a second into Impale, we'll be launching 3 quick Earthquakes. Make sure your 3rd Earthquake starts before your 2nd Earthquake finishes for the insane multi-strike damage with Upheaval. The results, as you can see, is a hot one rotation kill of the final Arbiter, piece of cake. Time for them tips and tricks. Be mindful of your Earthquakes. No reason to spend 3 Earthquakes killing 1 Mauler as an example. Don't spam Tremor on cooldown. Remember, we want as much uptime as we can get for Death or Gnome. Take advantage of Tremor not counting as a skill cooldown until after its duration. Always remember to input a movement command when using Earthquake. This performs an animation cancel so you can get them out much faster. Get familiar with Gravity Leap's distance. You can activate this skill from anywhere to float in the air, but if you are out of the target's range, you'll need to manually cancel the skill, which makes it go on a short internal cooldown. Gravity Leap can also be used as a way to escape incoming damage, as well as completely bypass the Arbiter's axe phase. Not that he'll be alive long enough to even proc this phase. Lastly, be aware of your minimap to line up hot earthquakes. See a bunch of red dots, aim your earthquake in that direction, and watch those dots disappear. That's it for the updated build, guys, everybody. While my intention was to keep this build update short, I figured it was best to go over things in a bit more detail, as more information can only be helpful. You can check out all of my other Outriders content in the video description below, as well as a few of them popping up right about now. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/PlatoBear, and also click that link in the pin's comment to join the Discord and hang out with the homies. If you want, you can also like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until the next one, peace.